week 2 of the fantasy baseball season. Here's a few prospects I would watch this week and possibly add on my fantasy roster, where already we've seen some top prospects up in the major leagues and top prospect in Major League Baseball. Connor Griffin just got called up after 6 games to the Pittsburgh Pirates, where actually I thought he should have made the roster at opening day. The first prospect, Colt Emerson of the Seattle Mariners. He just got all his arbitration years bought out. 8 years, $95 million deal. Emerson signed with the Seattle Mariners, the biggest contract ever for someone who's never appeared in the major league. Shortstop, we know they got J.P. Crawford, even though we know he's banged up right now for the Seattle Mariners team. And that deal could go up to $120 million. So early going this season for Emerson, he's in AAA, hitting .278 in 4 games and 18 at-bats, with 1 homer and 2 RBIs. So Emerson, he's a guy that could do a little bit of everything. Last season in the minor league, 16 homers, 78 RBIs, 14 stolen bases, a .285 average, and a .383 on base percentage. So like I said, obviously the Seattle Mariners team likes him a lot, giving him that contract, buying out the arbitration years, and he's getting some big money with incentives as well. And he's the number 6 overall prospect in all Major League Baseball, and the number 1 prospect is Emerson in the Seattle Mariners system. So I think he's going to be up sooner than later. I know he's only 20 years old, but like I said, we've seen Connor Griffin, 19 years old. He just got called up. Kevin McConaughey, he made the Tigers. He's only 21 years old. And J.J. Weatherholt, 23 years old. All these guys in the majors right now with their respective teams, and they were only in their early 20s. So right now, Emerson, after getting that deal, and like I said, with J.P. Crawford banged up and this Mariners offense not really hitting in the early going, it wouldn't be surprising to me if he's up sooner than later and he's out there in 89% of fantasy leagues. Next prospect, Leo DeVries of the Athletics. DeVries only 19 years old, but I think he's going to be up sooner than later. We know they got Jacob Wilson, but they could always move him at second base, where I don't think Jeff McNeil is going to be much of a factor for this Athletic team. And also, he was the big piece in the Mason Miller trade last season at the Major League trade deadline. DeVries was, and he's the number 4 prospect in baseball, obviously the number 1 prospect in this Athletic system, and he's out there in 91% of fantasy leagues is DeVries. So last season, between 3 levels of the minor leagues, 15 home runs, 74 RBIs, 11 stolen bases, a .255 average, and a .355 on base percentage, with an .806 OPS. Obviously, the batting average, you don't like it, .255, and so far, obviously in 2 years in the minor leagues, he's only hitting total .248 in 193 total games in the minor leagues. But DeVries, he's got a good arm at shortstop. He could steal some bases. He could drive in runs. I know the strikeout rate a little high, 107 strikeouts last season in 118 games. But a lot of guys do strike out nowadays. And this guy, he has the tools to be a big-time shortstop and has elite speed as well, where he did have 8 triples last season. So like I said, DeVries, they want to get him down there going a little bit more in Double-A for this Athletic team before they bring him up to the major leagues. But we know this Athletic team, they're most likely not going to be a good team. And I think DeVries, he's not going to come up right away. But I think in the summer months, maybe in July or August, we could see him in the major leagues. And like I said, he just needs a little more seasoning down there to come up, I believe, for this Athletic team, where they're not going to go anywhere, I believe, once again this season. Next prospect, Bryce Aldridge of the San Francisco Giants. I thought Aldridge had a decent shot out of spring training to make it for the San Francisco Giants. And last season, he was up in the major leagues for a cup of coffee, and he struggled mightily. No homers, 4 RBIs in 10 games, with a 107 batting average and a .297 on base percentage. And so far in AAA, he's off to a decent start. No homers, 2 RBIs, 6 runs scored, a .278 average, and a .500 on base percentage in the early going. So Aldridge is the number 23 prospect in all Major League Baseball, number 1 prospect in the San Francisco Giant organization. And also as well, they got Casey Schmidt at first base, and we saw third baseman Matt Chapman call him out the way he's fielding and just nonchalant out there. Where Rafael Devers, obviously they made the big trade for him last season in May, was the San Francisco Giant team, and he played third, some first, but they didn't like defensive first with Devers, and he's a DH. And Casey Schmidt, he's been in the majors for a couple seasons now, and obviously I don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to hold back Aldridge coming up. So I think Aldridge will come up sooner than later for the San Francisco Giant team. They need another bat in that lineup. And like I said, I know he was up last season in a cup of coffee in 10 games. but I think he could be a May call-up or even earlier in the middle of April here. Eldridge getting called up, especially with Chapman calling out Schmidt after last night's ball game, and he's available in 91% of fantasy leagues. Next prospect, Walter Jenkins of the Minnesota Twins. I thought last season we were going to see Jenkins in the major leagues, but obviously that didn't happen. Right now he's in AAA St. Paul Saints with this Minnesota Twin team. Last season, pretty solid year for the most part between 4 different teams in the Twin organization. 10 homers, 34 RBIs, 17 stolen bases, a 286 average, and a 399 on base percentage. So this Minnesota Twin team, another team I believe they're not going to go anywhere this season, even though the AL Central ain't that great a division in my opinion. And his expected time to come up here as well for Walter Jenkins this season. He's 21 years old, big kid, 6'3", 210. He's got some pop, could steal some bases. Number 12 prospect overall, Major League Baseball, number 1 prospect in this Minnesota Twins system. And we see a lot of guys now come out of college in the minors, maybe a year and a half at that, and then they come up in the major leagues. And like I said early in the video, we've seen already some top prospects up from opening day, and Connor Griffin just called up for the Pittsburgh Pirates at 19 years old. So like I said, this Twin team not going anywhere. He's their number 1 prospect, and like I said, I think they could fit him in one of the corner spots in the outfield, and he's out there in 95% of fantasy leagues. And the final prospect I will watch this week and possibly add, Robbie Snelling, the Miami Marlins. Robbie Snelling, he was in the Tanner Scott deal a couple years ago at the MLB trade deadline, going from the Miami Marlins to the San Diego Padres. And then obviously Tanner Scott last offseason then signed with the Dodgers. So Robbie Snelling, I think he's going to be up sooner than later. They got Chris Paddock in the rotation, where obviously I don't think he's that good of a pitcher. He got bombed in his first start of the season. I got Jason Junk as well at the back end of the rotation. And this Marlin team in a tough NL East with the Atlanta Braves, Philadelphia Phillies, New York Mets, teams I believe that are better than them. They're not going to do much in this division. And it's about, once again this season, rebuilding a little bit and seeing what these young guys have. So Snelling, he's expected to be up this season. 22 years old, big kid, 6'3", 210, and a lefty, which is hard to find. And obviously Sandy Alcantara, he's off to a great start, complete game shutout, second start of the season. They got Yuri Perez in that rotation, and now you had another guy like a Robbie Snelling in there to go with Max Meyer. That's a good nucleus as well. So last season, 9-7 record between 2 teams for the Miami Marlins, 2.51 ERA, 25 games started, 136 innings, and 166 strikeouts. And right now he's in AAA for this Miami Marlins team. So if he does decent down there, I think we could see Snelling in the major leagues very soon, maybe by May with this Marlins team. Like I said, I don't think Chris Paddock's going to stay long in this rotation, especially what we saw in the first start of the season from him. And also Jason Junk, I don't think he's that good of a pitcher as well, where he's more of a guy they could put in the bullpen. So Snelling right now, 137th prospect overall in the major leagues, and he's available right now, is Snelling in 95% of fantasy league. That's a few prospects I would watch and possibly add this week for week 2 of the fantasy baseball season.